Hey there, it's Wendy Hernandez. Happy Martin Luther King Day. Hope you all had a wonderful day, whether you worked or not. And hopefully you had some time to reflect on some of the teachings of Martin Luther King. I think it's well needed in the atmosphere in our country and the world. I certainly had a chance to look at some quotes. And for today, we have a really special guest. But before I forget, I have to do my normal disclaimer. Sorry. So as you know, I'm an attorney in Arizona. I'm only an attorney in Arizona. I'm not an attorney in any other state or country. This live stream is for educational purposes only. Any information that's given out is not intended to be legal advice. There's no attorney-client privilege. If you want a consultation with me or any other attorney, you need to set up an appointment and schedule it. So now I can talk about my guest. And so my guest is Eva Medelek, and she's a certified high performance coach. And I'm really excited for her. I didn't know this when we scheduled the live stream, but she just released a book. And Eva's going to talk with us about the book. It's called Interracial Intimacy, the Regulation of Race and Romance. But Eva tonight is going to talk to us about ways of being as we go through our custody and family court cases. Welcome, Eva. Thank you for being here with us.
Oh, thank you, Wendy, for having me. I'm really excited to be here. I just wanted to say one thing so that people don't get a little bit misdirected because of the book. It's actually called The Intimacy of Race, and it really talks about how to step up in your allyship for minoritized communities. So no romance here, unfortunately. Sorry,
Okay.
I can't help you there.
Well, thank you for clarifying that. I appreciate it. And if I had known about the book, before a few minutes ago,
I just sprang it on you.
No, that's not your fault. That's not your fault. I wish I had known so I could have, built it up and pumped it a little more, but I'll let you do that at the end of the live stream,
Of
Eva. So I just want to say a couple hellos. Hi, Raul. It's great to see you. Suresh, it's good to see you. Digital Right, always happy to see you. It's been a while. Of course, Tenacious Warrior, Edgar Velasquez, JC, IW, and Kimberly. Thank you for that nice message. So you guys, this is, we're into the new year now. And I think that a lot of people go into the new year with, big dreams, big goals, big plans. Certainly I do that every year. And when you're going through these cases, and I'm going through a lot of them too, it's easy to get thrown off base. It's easy to get discouraged because of the work that needs to be done or a result that happened or something that your ex or soon to be ex did. And I can tell you from personal experience, it's easy to get derailed. I felt myself really going off track this week because of the things happening in the case. So Eva, I know you have expertise in this area in how a person can be not only in life, but as they're going through a family law case. So can you talk with us about the powerful ways of being that might help our viewers?
Absolutely. I come from the belief it's more about who we are and how we are showing up and how we make others feel. That's actually more important than what we do. And so when we're navigating these difficult cases, which often lead to difficult conversations, difficult communications, and everybody is more in a defense or accusation or whatever the feeling that comes up, the true message and what you want to create gets missing. So what I came up with was 6 powerful ways of being that foster effective communication and connection in your relationships. And it's kind of like a guidebook, a little bit of direction to help you know that, there is a formula for having these difficult conversations. And if you just go in purely on emotion without a strategy, chances are you're not going to get the outcome that you want.
Yes, I agree with that 100%. These cases are so emotional. And, I've been doing this for 24 years and it's still easy. I get that email from the other attorney and I just want to fly off the handle. So please share with us the formula.
Yes. Okay. So I'll just run through them really quick, one by one. First one is to be generous. And when I say generous, I mean generous with your listening.
Okay.
Most conflict happens when we misunderstand the intention and what was being said. So for example, most of us listen with the intent to defend or respond, which takes us out of being fully present with what was being said. So if you can just listen with the intent to hear and have that other person feel that you are fully present, when we don't feel seen, heard, or respected in any conversation, whether it's amicable or already started with some conflict and mistrust, we cannot win the process, because people are pretty much checked out no matter what you say or how you say it or how intelligently you say it and how it makes sense. The soil is not prepared to have that received or listened. So be present with listening. Don't be distracted. Don't have your phone. Don't make a face, but just really kind of lean in and hear so that you don't get that defensive response. And then actually say to the person, I hear you, or this is what I heard you say, so that you can make sure that there's not a misunderstanding. And here's the thing, if they didn't hear what you actually said, take responsibility to say it again in a different way so that the person can understand the intent behind your words.
So I want to follow up on a couple of things and ask you a question, but first an observation. So, I'm getting ready for a big trial, and I've spent a good part of the last week reviewing email exchanges back and forth between the parties. And I see that the parties have the most conflict when one or the other is not feeling like the other one is listening. Like they're not being heard. So that's a really great awareness for me.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, and that's any of us who have ever been married, especially, and I'll just speak from the female perspective, having a husband. When I feel my husband is not listening to me or paying attention to me, I just can feel the discomfort and the anger start to rise up. So imagine when you're already in a somewhat adversarial position, it's even a heightened level of like, argh. And all you want to do is kind of defend, respond, react, accuse. All of those emotions come out. And so, we win conversations when we win the process of conversations. And when you win the process, you're more likely to have a win-win outcome. The outcome almost is a byproduct of winning the process of being, seen, heard, and respected. That's the big one.
Okay, that is a big one. So let me ask you this, Eva, because you said that take responsibility. If you don't think somebody's heard you, then say it again. Is that?
Yeah. That's actually one of the ways of being that I'll get to later, but I can go through it now, is that be open to feedback.
Okay.
When you ask, well, it's kind of on the other end, like, what did you hear me say? A lot of times I'll do that either with my husband because, his native language is not English. So we do have a little bit of a cultural difference. But even with my clients, I'll ask them, what did you hear me say? Because a lot of times, I can't tell you how many times, not a lot, but it's not what I meant. It's not what I said. And until we have that clarity, I take it as my responsibility, if you didn't understand what I said, to say, you know what, that's not what I meant. Let me try this again. Let me rephrase it. Let me say it a different way, because apparently, I'm not being clear in what I'm saying. And so a lot of times, especially if you're in the heat of emotion, you're not very clear in what you say, meaning what you say and making sure that that gets communicated properly. So have an experience of being open to feedback. And so you get to ask for feedback. What did you hear me say? And then in the other realm, this is what I heard you say, when, because you don't know the state of being of the other person. They may not be into generous listening at the moment. So you really have to ask, what did you hear me say? I just want to make sure that I'm being clear and that there's no misunderstanding. And that's in all of your negotiations, your mediations, your conversations with clients and customers, wherever you are in life. It's very, very helpful to make sure your communication is landing clearly.
So, and I think that's great. And I get into that a lot with my husband, I'll be offended because he's said something and I'm mad now, and he's like, what? It's the whole Mars Venus thing, and he's like, what do you think I was saying?
Mm.
And he's a great communicator. I mean, I would venture to say, not in front of him, but he's probably a better communicator than I am when it comes to emotions and stuff, because he really asks for that clarity. And I tend to jump to conclusions and assume something that he didn't say. So I love that, what you just said, Eva.
Well,
Yeah.
as women, we tell great stories, don't we?
Yeah, we do.
And we'll make up a story about anything, and he must have meant this because he said it with this look at his face, or he said it in a certain way. And so here's what I tell my clients, all of them, male and female alike. If you're going to make up a story, make up a good story. Make up a story that supports you. Oh, he's being like that because he loves me, or he's trying to be funny, or she's doing this. Make up a really good story. Don't make up one that diminishes you or creates more conflict, because until you get that clarity, you're just making up a story.
That's true. That's right. That's right. So how would you recommend somebody handle it if they're communicating with another person who is not in that generous state of being, and it's like they rephrase it and rephrase it and rephrase it, and it just isn't landing right because of the past relationship of conflict, or the person's
the walls that come up if it doesn't land. And so, one of the things that I have started practicing if I can't get through is to ask, what can I do? What can I do to have you hear me more clearly? Because maybe this isn't a good time. It might not be a time where they are receptive to what you have to say, and that could be the block to anything that you have to say getting through. And so one of the things I always do when we're just talking about one-on-one communication is ask, when is a good time for us to have this talk? I've had to do that with my adult daughters a lot of time, when you can tell that they have a little bit of attitude and they're coming at me and like, clearly this is not a good time for us to talk about this. And even when someone is insistent, it's like, no, I really, I have some important things to say, and I really want to make sure that, you can receive them in the spirit that I'm getting. I want us to hear each other's hearts in this. And I always tell my clients, do not have a difficult conversation with a person who is hungry. Make sure that they have eaten.
That's true. That is so true.
Rule number one, make sure that they have eaten.
That's true.
Not dehydrated.
That is true. I mean, speaking of my husband, that's one thing he's very perceptive about. He says something and I'm like, "Rrr," and he's like, okay, when was the last time you ate? He knows.
I love him.
So somebody's asking, Maconia is asking, can you email a handout of these steps? And so since Maconia is bringing it up, I think, Eva, you can help with that, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I do have this in a PDF for anybody who really wants it. EvaMedelek.com, which is my name and my website, /PWOB, which is Powerful Ways of Being.
Okay, I just posted the link, by the way.
Awesome. Yeah, and then they can get that right into their inbox.
So there you go, Maconia. You ask, we deliver. Okay, so let's talk about some of the other ways of being.
Well, this might be really useful for your audience, especially if they're in some kind of custody situation, is to be committed. And what I mean by being committed, we have to be committed to the relationship that we want to create. I divorced my first husband when my kids were 6 and 3. And so we had these custody discussions. And trust me, if it were up to me, you know, I was just a happy single parent, but I was committed to making sure my children had a relationship with their dad. I knew he was, you know, a liar. I knew he was a cheat. I knew he was an alcoholic. But at that age, they knew him as daddy. So my commitment was to the relationship, not to the person. And I'll say that again. The commitment was to the relationship that I wanted my children to be able to have with their father until they were old enough to see what I saw and to know what I know, without me being the person to bring that. Now, unless you're fearful for your children's lives, that's another story. But when it comes to a custody battle, be committed to the relationship, not the person. And that changes your mindset when you're having these conversations and when you're in these negotiations and mediations. And the other thing is, you don't want a 50-50 commitment. You don't want somebody who's half in. You want to each be 100% committed to what you want to create in whatever result that you want to have in the mediation. So that's why you need to have these conversations, so that you're both on the same side of the commitment, and you look at the kids and you're like, we're committed to these children 100% each. And then a lot of that other ego gets to fall by the wayside.
Thank you for that. And I love that. I agree 100%. Eva, what do you say to the person who's telling me, for example, you know, why is it up to me? There's one person usually who feels like they are doing everything. They're doing the lion's share, and the other person isn't doing crap, you know. They're not doing the homework with the kids during their time, you know, they're not forcing or asking the children to be accountable and responsible, and the kids are all over the place. And so one parent feels like they're the one who is enforcing rules and homework and chores and all of that. So what would you say to that person who feels like they're getting the short end of the stick and the other person's not 100% committed?
That's point number 5.
Oh, okay. Oh my gosh.
No, this is perfect. It's perfect. Most of our disappointment and frustration comes from having expectations. Mm-hmm. He should be doing this. She should be doing that. And we're shooting all over everything. Mm-hmm. You are going to have less anger when you, how do I say this? Lower your expectations. You've got to be willing to accept what is. This is the situation. I am going to be the primary person who checks homework and does this. For me to expect something to be different is going to raise my level of disappointment, make me angry, pissed off, frustrated, stressed out, all of that. Yep. So just be honest with what the reality of the situation is. It's going to be you. And so if they're your kids, they're your responsibility. Yes, they have 2 parents and it's both parents' responsibility. But just know that if your ex, whether it's your ex-wife or your ex-husband, has never done, just know that they will never do. Yeah. And so just, you know, readjust your expectations around that. And you know what? Life isn't fair. Buttercup, suck it up.
That's right. That's right. That's right. I agree. That's, you know, I learned that from my 5th grade teacher. You know, she always used to say, life isn't fair. I loved her. We were friends until she died just last May. So, and another thing is, you hear this saying about a leopard doesn't change its spots. And, you know, really, I think a person's only going to change if they want to change. They're not going to change because you're telling them to change. I mean, we all hear that a lot, right? Mm-hmm. So, you know, people get divorced or not together for a reason.
Exactly. And you know what? You get to protect yourself by not having expectations. And, you know, and I like to say another thing, role modeling is really, really strong. I know when people are made to feel wrong, you know, with their ex, if they're constantly hearing from you what they're doing wrong, what they're not doing enough of, what they should be doing, what they shouldn't be doing, and feeling like a loser all the time, that's not inspiring to do anything different. And that requires you to go bigger and go higher. And so, you know, when you want somebody to do something, at least start complimenting them, not blowing smoke up their butts, but complimenting them on what they are doing right. Thank you for picking up the children on time today. I really appreciate that.
Yeah.
It's a fact. Are you okay? You were late. Is everything okay? I was worried about you. Oh, thank God you're okay. There's an inspiration, an influence is what I'm looking for. An influence that happens when you role model the behavior that you would love to see from your spouse or the child's parent when it comes to custody, that you just get to role model. And, thank you for doing that. That was great. They had a good time. Hopefully it's true. Hopefully you can find something to make them feel better. That's what I'm saying. Like if you've got a really bad ex, is one thing, but most of the time we're just responding out of hurt, because hurt people hurt people. So, if you can show up in a way that makes the other person feel good, chances are, just like we do with our own kids, they'll do more of it, because maybe your ex didn't get praise and were heavily criticized in their early life experiences. That's one of the things I work with my clients on a lot. And so they're used to it. They're used to being criticized. They're used to being, put down. So it doesn't have an effect to cause change, but everybody likes praise, right?
Oh,
and
yeah.
So we want more of it. So
Yeah.
we'll do something more to get more praise. It's just human behavior.
Yeah, it's true. I think that when people feel appreciated and like they're not being taken for granted, then they tend to be more generous.
Exactly. You hit the nail right on the head with that one.
Yeah, for sure. So, okay, so lead me through what we've been through so far. I lost track of how many. I don't know if we've been through all of them yet, or if there's still more. Ways.
Yes, I do have one I think that might be interesting. It's number 6, be willing to shift your response. And I have a little formula that I go through. It's S plus R equals R. You have a situation, right? Plus R equals R. That last R is the result. The middle one is what you have control of. That's your response. You can respond responsibly, or you can react. So you have control. The situation is what it is. How you respond or react to that situation will equal your results. So when you shift your response to have the intent of love, compassion, understanding, and forgiveness versus resentment, frustration, blame, and disappointment, the results will shift as well. And so your arguing and bickering are stopped in their tracks. So, for example, if your ex or current partner or spouse does something to hurt you, one of the things I share with my clients is just say, ouch, that hurt. Because then they're left with the last words kind of that they said in their head.
Yeah.
And not hearing you react, defend, or respond. And it's just a simple statement of fact that what you said or what you did just hurt.
Yeah.
And there's nothing to fight back with. You just said, ouch, that hurt.
Yeah.
And, but, to shut down emotionally, to cry, to scream, to defend, and all of that is just actually adding fuel to the fire. And it doesn't mean that you have to take a lot of things, because I know everybody's situation is different, but this is useful for people who are still in a relationship with their partner or spouse and are still married. And most of the time you'll hear, it wasn't my intention to hurt you.
Right.
And so just really think of ways that you can shift the normal result if you keep getting results that you're not happy with, by shifting your response, because you have that control.
I love that, going just kind of defaulting at ouch, that hurt, because so many people, the tendency is to immediately react and just presume the worst, but that kind of shows where it landed and maybe opens up the conversation for more.
Exactly. You're not in a retaliation. It's just like, wow, that really hurt.
Exactly.
move on. You know, these
Exactly.
things, you know, a lot of them, they just take time to, number one, get used to and implement, because we always, you know, I remember being in that stage of divorce and custody where it was just like, you
Yeah.
know, and, you know, that wasn't serving my children and it wasn't making me feel good. I mean, I always looked at it like every moment I spent angry or disappointed or frustrated with my ex took time off of my life. And I didn't want to give that to him. I
Right.
really wanted to have a space of inner calm so that stress didn't cause any health problems for me. And so, you know, it probably took us a year, and I'm going back to the early 90s. So I'm going back a long way, but it took a year of going through those emotions and those feelings to find a groove where I could not only show up as the bigger person in that case, but actually have influence of him to be more amenable to being a bigger person as well. And it can take time. Everybody's different.
Did the relationship evolve? Like when you made this conscious effort, that you're describing, did the relationship evolve, or do you think your perception evolved? Did anything change as time went on?
As time went, I made sure that he had vacations with us still. I mean, he was like, for lack of a better word, he was a loser. So I made sure, holidays were spent with him and his mother, that my children only felt the separation because we lived in different households and in different states. So I went out of my way. Yes, the relationship evolved as they got older and saw his manipulative techniques. And, unfortunately, my girls don't have a close relationship because apparently behind closed doors, he was pitting them against each other a lot. But the rift, they no longer speak to their dad, but it never was because of me. It's because they came to see their own truth about their dad, and they made a conscious decision themselves to cut themselves off from him.
Got it.
So
Okay.
that's how it evolved and changed.
Got it. Okay. So one thing that came to mind for me as you were talking about the expectations, and this is something, that I just want to share because I had it come up in a recent exchange that I was having with somebody, not related to a case I had, but a more personal exchange. And this concept of presuming goodwill of the other person came up. And I think that's a really valuable thought, and it goes to what you were saying. If you're going to make up a story, then why not make up a good one, right? As opposed to presuming the worst about a person. What about presuming the best and asking? Yeah.
And when you start off a conversation, like if you're hurt by something, you've got to be honest about it. I mean, how many times have we asked somebody what's wrong and they say nothing when clearly their body language and everything shows that something's wrong. And, I had this once with my husband where he had said something that hurt my feelings at a party, and he said it kind of jokingly. And I talked to him afterwards and I said, I know it wasn't your intention to hurt me, but when you said that, it really hurt me, and I felt that you weren't proud of me. And he was like, oh my God, no, I wasn't. But had I gone at it more accusatory, it wouldn't have had the result that it had. And the next time he did have an opportunity to share about what I was doing, I was training for an endurance challenge, actually, and getting up early. And he was like, my wife is crazy for getting up early. It changed to, I'm so proud of my wife for getting up early. This is what she's doing, and she's getting up early to do it. And so, I asked, but I didn't hide the fact that I was hurt by what he said. But I said it in a way just saying, I know you love me and you didn't intend, I'm sure you were making a joke, but I actually was hurt when I heard you say it.
Yeah. There you go. There you go. Yeah. That's awesome. Okay. So have we covered the ways of being, which are summarized in your PDF?
Yes, I believe we did. Kind of went out of order here.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, we got them all. The other one, I weaved the be honest in there as well. No, they don't go in any particular order. It's just how it happens to be. But yeah, it is. The last one was really be honest. If something is bothering you, like you said, like you referenced, be honest with what you feel, but always assume that it wasn't the person's intention to hurt you.
Okay. So Mistaken Identity 22 is saying it's not as easy as you make it sound, Eva. So let's
No, it's not. It's hard. It's
yeah.
hard. And I have to tell you, honestly, you have to give yourself space to process how you are going to show up. You've got to make a plan. Like when I was hurt in the moment, this didn't happen right away. It happened 2 or 3 days later when I was like already in a place to settle and to tell myself a better story than I was making up about it, on how to approach it. And, and I was nervous because I didn't want to say the wrong thing. I didn't want to start a misunderstanding with me and my husband. And so I actually went to this guide and I looked at ways that I could plan how I was going to approach this subject. And I always say, when you're having a conversation that's going to be difficult and uncomfortable, you've got to prepare the soil before you plant the seed in hard, rocky soil. So it was after dinner. Everybody was full. We had a glass of wine. And I started with, you know what? I know you love me and you would never hurt me. So that was preparing the soil with that acknowledgement. And then I went in to be honest about how I felt and why. And then I got the apology I was hoping to get.
That's great. I mean, that's a great example in Mistaken Identity. This is not easy. None of this is easy. Going through these cases is not easy. For me, being a family law attorney is not easy. I'm sure, Eva, and being a high performance coach, it's not always been easy, but the practice, when you practice consistently at some point, I believe it will become second nature. What do you think about that?
Yeah, it really is a habit, a practice, a principle that you get to just hone. But you know what? Give yourself space to come up with a plan, just like you would do with anything in your life. You just don't want to go in and be reactive. And so, have a plan that this is what I'm going to be. I'm going to stand on my, I've had my, cup of tea. I'm relaxed. I'm good. But to go in it when the emotions are really high makes it even more difficult. So if you are in a position where you can give yourself some space and some grace to process your emotion first is what I usually recommend.
Okay. So Digital Right, who's always active during these live streams, very grateful for you, Digital Right. He says, Eva, your advice is great. I think it's challenging to stay on top of them. Any techniques to implement so we can remind ourselves on how to be whenever we shift on the negative?
Yes. One of the things I always ask myself is, what was I expecting? And it goes back to expectations. And when I start to manage my expectations, I actually show up better, because a lot of our disappointments, like I said before, come from expecting things to be different than what they are. Well, I expected him, I can give so many stories, but, I expected him to really love what I said and love my idea, and he didn't. So you're upset and angry because your expectation wasn't met.
Okay.
So when you go into kind of, what was I expecting that didn't happen, you can really kind of talk yourself off of the emotional ledge and ask yourself why you expected that. And, and then go into some negotiation tools. Some of the things I do in high performance is we talk about how to influence. We talk about how to persuade someone in negotiations and mediations. And we have a formula set up so that you go in prepared and not reactive.
That's right. Okay, excellent. So I have maybe one or two more questions, and then I want to talk about your book, if that's okay, Eva.
Awesome. Yes.
Okay. So Tenacious Warrior, and I don't know if you can speak to this or not. It sounds like you had a divorce and custody situation that was similar to a lot of my viewers, where they have an ex who could be a narcissist or, have alcohol issues or personality disorders. And, a lot of people ask for advice on balance between protecting the children from abuse or adult problems and educating the kids on the toxic traits of their narc parent. I don't know if you can speak to that from your personal experience at all, if it was that extreme from your personal experience, or if any of your techniques can help.
One of the things that I did when we were going through partway, I think it was after the divorce, where I wasn't happy with some of the things that my ex was doing. I actually had both children in counseling together and wanted to bring everybody in to talk about how to deal with it. I am not a trained therapist, so if your children are in danger, I would say, like any parent, you want to protect your children from harm at all cost. And so when I had to talk about these things, my ex is a alcoholic. He's now probably even homeless, I would imagine, in New York City, of all places. I live in California. Was I got the advice of someone who was an expert in how to talk to children about that. My children are now in their 30s, so I probably can't even remember how we talked about it, but I really would recommend that you talk to someone else, because you're kind of in a rock and the hard place. You don't want your children to feel bad about themselves because one parent is not the best parenting example out there. And sometimes children take that like, well, if mommy hates daddy and I'm a part of daddy, mommy might hate me, kind of thing. And so I would say get professional advice if it's that serious, on how to talk to your children about it and what would be the best way to handle that.
Yep, I think that's great advice. And for the people who are asking this question, Maconia, and I know Joni, I had before Christmas an interview with Alexandra. I think it was Stockwell. I don't know if you know her. Do you know her?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. All right, Eva. So Alexandra, who's a physician, but also now, a relationship coach.
Yeah.
She had a lot of great insight and advice about talking to children as somebody's going through a custody battle. So I would recommend Joni and Maconia and anybody else who's interested, go take a look at Alexandra's video. Because she shares also her thoughts. But I always think that, if you can, professional help is a great thing.
Yeah. Well, especially if the children might be in danger.
Yeah.
And that's where they probably should not be having any type of shared or unsupervised custody. For me, I always knew that my children were with their grandmother when their father was there. So I had that feeling of safety. But as they got older and I found out some more things, then we had to just kind of adjust, and they noticed.
Yeah. Yep. Okay. Excellent. So Rodney, thank you. He says, great advice, time and space to learn to handle the thoughts that cause such emotional trauma in the events leading up to court. That's right. Absolutely. You got to learn to manage this stuff, guys. All right. So Eva,
yes,
I've taken up a little more time than we expected. So let's tell us about your book and how people can find your book. And I think it's so fitting, especially for today, Martin Luther King Day. So let's hear about it.
Yes, my book is actually called The Intimacy of Race, and it really is something that I created out of the events of this past year, when I saw so many white and white presenting people wanting to help, wanting to be an ally, wanting to use their voice for systemic racism and racial injustice. And they were actually putting their foots in their mouths a lot of times. So, and really getting raked over the coals on social media. So I created a Facebook group called The Intimacy of Race, specifically to share resources and to create a safe space so that white and white presenting allies could ask questions and get messy and get advice on how to have these difficult conversations without being criticized.
I love it.
As a result of that Facebook group, I created a live forum called the Allyship Awareness Forum, when it was a listen and learn event. And so this is the transcript of that forum, resources, definitions, so that you can be made aware of where subconscious bias shows up in your life and how you can switch that over to active allyship. And it's just really bite-sized, digestible baby steps, so that you don't have to go do all of this research and history to show up as a better ally, but it really starts with the inner work, and this book will give you the first steps to doing that. So it's called The Intimacy of Race. It's on Amazon. I launched it a little bit early because of Martin Luther King Jr. Day today. It's his birthday today, and my dad actually was a police officer that was guarding Martin Luther King Jr. a week before he went to Memphis and was killed. So, there's part of my legacy there that I dedicated to my dad as well.
I love it. That just gave me chills hearing that, Eva. That's so cool. That's really amazing. So I have the link there posted for you all, so you can go and get Eva's book and get more information.
And it's just get book at. So I know there's no space there in the new book. Yeah. So just make sure it's getbook.at/the intimacy of race, because that link won't work like that. And
okay. Hold on a second. I had, let me see. There we go. I had the link. Is that right?
That's it. Yeah.
Okay. All right. There you go, you guys. There's a link. It's in the chat. And don't go yet, you guys, because I have an announcement to make before you go and before we say goodbye to Eva. But Digital Right says, thank you. You've been great. I'm going to buy the book. Hopefully it's on Amazon UK. So
it is.
Yay.
Yay.
All right. See, we have viewers all over the world. Isn't that awesome? Okay. So Eva, can you please tell everybody, aside from the link for the book, how they can find you?
Talkwitheva.com.
Okay.
That's hard, right?
Yeah. Okay. Witheva.com.
Talkwitheva.com. I am so happy to connect with people so that, we all get to be better, so that we can do better, so that we can all have better. And that's what this world is about. So it just works in every aspect of your life. Unfortunately, custody battles are never easy. They rarely are, but there's a way to really navigate them so that you come out whole and intact, hopefully.
For sure. And the kids, most importantly, right? So
absolutely.
So Eva, thank you so much for being here with us today on this special day.
Thank you for having me, Wendy.
And I wish you the best of luck with your book, and hopefully we'll see more of each other.
Yes.
So, and you guys, so I have a guest coming up in a couple of weeks, Dr. Darren Weissman. Do you know Darren Weissman, Eva?
No, I don't know him.
Okay. So he is, he's a Hay House author, and he really helps, speaking of shifting lives, he helps people shift their lives and their mindset. And when he's on the show, he wants to have people on hot seats, live hot seats. So that means the people, isn't that cool?
Yeah.
So the people who are selected for the hot seat are actually going to appear just like Eva is, and they're going to be with me and Dr. Weissman. And he's going to talk them through some issues that they're having in their case or in their lives, and hopefully help them shift their thinking. And it's something new, something I've never done on one of my live streams. I'm excited for it. So if you want to sign up or actually submit, throw your hat in the ring to be on the live hot seat, we're posting the link here. Tenacious Warrior, my trusty helper, has created a link. If you're interested in being on the live hot seat, fill out this form and submit it, and then we'll take a look, and we'll probably have time for 3 or 4 hot seats. So just wanted to make that announcement. I'll send an email about it too. But Eva, you've been lovely.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, and have a good evening, you guys. I love you
so much. Everybody.
Love you guys. Remember to keep on trucking. Get out there and command the courtroom. Give us a thumbs up. Subscribe if you haven't already. And just hang in there, okay? You're going to be okay. So I will see you next week. Have another great guest and talk to you then. Bye, guys.